slogan, "Stay wide of the rider," in my head is saying to motorists that make sure there's enough space between your car and available space for a rider to use.
It spells out to motorists and to every road user out there that the road needs to be shared by everyone.
Whenever you see a cyclist, just if you can, if it's safe for you to do so, just make sure that you make a wide enough turn or pass around them as you're making your way down the road.
If you consider how narrow 1 meter is, it's probably not safe enough. But the reality is our roads probably don't have more space to make it 1.5 meters.
You need to give your rider a bit of gap in order to navigate through the narrow passages that we have on the roads. It's unfortunate that we have to share the roads with motorists as well as taxi drivers and of course other road users, but yeah, please give us a gap.
Should have happened years ago, and I really think it's a good idea.
Sien baie uit op vandag serieus. Ek hoop dit is baie modderig nie. I think it's fabulous. They because they should have more of it and we're not in competition with the men.
No, I love the idea. I did the road one in December as well and it was fun.
And it is my absolute pleasure and delight to be able to welcome you here today to the first ever all-female mountain bike event in the Western Cape.
This is a women's event that the Pedal Power organisation was almost forced into arranging because we had an earlier road event last year where we were overwhelmed with the response from the women. And I think so little is being done for women in this country for cycling. And Pedal Power thought there was a gap and let's try it. And we were surprised at this wonderful turnout. Today, as you know, is the biggest single event where women have taken part in, bigger than any other event in this country. We had over 500 applicants, and I mean, they've all pitched up, you know. They're not like men. The guys are worried about the rain and things like that. Women are determined. That to me is just so wonderful.
It was just a really great ride. We were thrilled to bits that for the first time ever, this being the first time that this event has been held, we had just over 500 ladies who have entered the Pedal Power Tread Lightly ladies mountain bike event, which makes it the biggest mountain bike event in the Cape, which is just brilliant. We had 3 routes, 22 kilometre, a 12 kilometre and a 5 kilometre, and the distances were sort of chosen. This event is an introduction to mountain biking and indeed to cycling for many of the women. At least, well, almost about half of the field took this as their first ride ever. And therefore the routes were chosen to be slightly challenging but not too difficult, so that everyone would just have a wonderful time on the road. We even had champagne at one of the water points.
It's gorgeous, and this route, oh my word, it's so exciting. I was stung by bees. I think you got it on camera. Yes, I'm the bee lady, in my arse and on my head.
Brilliant, excellent. Yeah.
Hey! Shoot, you didn't even have any to check.
Oh, it's divine. Now I can carry on.
Ik kan wel helpen. 10 dagen is daar. Wat jullie deel van die werk niet.
Works for me and it will work for you. When you're feeling stressed, you should take it too. It's easy to do and it takes no time. It lifts you up and it'll put things right. A smile will help to make amends. It makes you laugh, it makes you friends. A smile can work in wondrous ways. A smile can take your tears away. 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 A smile will take your tears away.
I've recently become a mom. I've got a 6-month-old. Life as I know it is completely changed, and there's no way that I will ever look at life the same way again. And it's also made me more aware of the dangers out there. So when I think about cyclists, when I think about motorists, when I think about people now, I have to think about the fact that they are probably a mom, a dad, they've probably got kids. As someone who spends quite a bit of time on the road, I see a lot of motorists and I see a lot of cyclists. And what I can say is that there's a fair amount of intolerance going both ways. I feel that there are some cyclists that perhaps take a little bit of advantage out on the roads, but then you've got those motorists that have no patience whatsoever. Consideration is a big important word there. Mindfulness, tolerance, knowing to obey the rules of the road, knowing to obey the laws of the country. I think those things are really important, and I feel that a lot of the time people think, oh, it's fine, they can get away with this, no one's looking, no one's going to catch them, and it's that kind of culture that we need to change. I believe 1 meter is a safe passing distance at the moment because I don't think our roads are going to get much wider. Come to think of it, the other day I had to stop on the highway. Even that, just stopping on the shoulder, and the cars rushing past you. Your whole car actually does this. You're stationary, but so I often have to think about what it must feel like when they're out there with zero protection and have these cars, trucks and buses just zooming past them at high speed. What that must feel like for a cyclist, and how little time it takes for the motorist, having that in their mind and being mindful of that, to do that 1 meter berth around the cyclist. A little bit more if they can, because I think that's what they need to think about when they're driving. They need to think about the fact that this person has no protection. They're able to actually offer a little bit of protection by moving around and doing it so that the cyclist also feels that they are protected on the roads. My whole mindset has changed, and for me now it really has become a celebration of the sacred life, because it's so easily taken away.
I think, what was my answer again? It's just, I do it to keep fit. I've loved bicycles since I was a kid, from having a BMX to having my first Concorde 10-speed racing bike. So, I've always loved bikes. And I remember when I was in primary school, at my school, you're not allowed to cycle to school until you've done a cycling proficiency test. So you'd be tested to see how proficient you are. Do you know the rules of the road? We were kids, we were 8, 9, 10, but we knew the rules of the road. We knew, for instance, not to ride on the pavement. We, just the basics. We knew about safety, using your helmet, what to do when you get to a stop sign. And, if you didn't have your cycling proficiency badge, the school didn't allow you to cycle to school.
Thank you, Mzansi, for supporting this nationwide safe cycling campaign.
When I'm cycling, there are days I feel safe, there are days I don't. That's why I try and cycle at times that work for me. When there are fewer cars on the road, you cycle in groups so that you're more visible. So I think little things like that, working around how much traffic and how many cars there are on the road, will, keep you safer than not. So, I prefer to do that. But generally, some motorists care that the other people using the same road that they're entitled to, but other motorists don't. But at the same time, there are also cyclists that almost refuse to be safe anyway. So yes, motorists can see you, but it doesn't mean you must be, cocky on the road or cycle with entitlement. Yes, you belong on the road as much as everyone else, but if it's between you and the car's going to win. I think everyone has the right to be on the road. I mean, you drive around South Africa and you almost get a sense that pedestrians don't matter. And, if you don't care about pedestrians, well, you're going to care about a guy on two wheels. And, you go to other countries and other parts of the world, and, the pedestrian is king. I mean, if you hit a pedestrian in the US, you have hell to pay. I think in terms of prioritizing and looking at safety and vulnerability, pedestrians, I think, should always have right of way over anyone else, followed by cyclists, motorcyclists, and people in cars. So that's what would happen if I ran a country. The 1 meter is a decent compromise. I'd prefer that cyclists had their own lanes, but in the absence of having your own lane, then I think the 1 meter is a fair compromise. Generally, wherever you're cycling in the world, know the rules of the road, know what the signs mean. Again, be visible at all times, have your helmet on, make sure your brakes work. So yeah, man, I think always think safety.
I cycle because I love the freedom of being out there in the outdoors and feeling the wind rush through my helmet and my little dreadlocks, and basically just feeling the sun kissing my face, And cycling out on the roads, I do tend to feel a little bit exposed in that it's an uncontrolled environment. You're dealing with so many other elements, potholes, taxis that are stopping immediately. You might even have also animals as well as pedestrians, let alone vehicles. So it is constantly a challenge, and one has to be continuously very much aware of what's happening around you to be able to navigate through the drama. Education is the key. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are out there that are riding on the roads from either the informal settlements or from a place of work going home, and they don't know the rules of the road, whether to cycle on the left side of the road or ahead or facing the traffic on the right hand side. So one needs to educate them, but at the same time, things such as helmets need to be worn, lights need to be put on the bikes, one needs to be wearing visible clothing and have reflectors around as well. That all helps in terms of aiding the driver and the motorist who's driving either in front of you or behind, be able to see you and know that you are there and have a presence. I believe cyclists do have the right to be on the road. However, they need to use the road in a friendly manner. As in terms of rules wise, that if you're riding as a group, you ride single file, and obviously when it does allow, you can actually open up. That's in a controlled environment that's a bit more safe and with less traffic. But at the same time, to the motorists as well, what I would say is please give us a bit of a gap. If you do see a group of cyclists or a cyclist, just move slightly to the right, and if the lane on the other side is open, move even more, and that way we all be happy and honky-dory. My advice to motorists as well as cyclists is that, guys, we're using the road together. Let us be courteous and show a little bit of Ubuntu. Share the environment that we're living in, and give each other the gaps that we need to in order to be able safely back at home with our families after a ride or a drive on the road.
I love being out on the bike. I do it because I absolutely thoroughly enjoy it. It's my little form of escapism where I go to another place and I have time to think. Then I've become more of a mountain biker, probably because we get into areas that you would never normally go to. And obviously to stay fit and healthy. And I'd love to say I'll commute, but I'm not sure it's safe enough to commute it. Maybe one day I will. The cyclists have a responsibility to ride safely. And what is safe? What is safely? And I think that is probably the crux. Is it single file or is it two abreast and narrow? It's a difficult situation. So I don't feel safe, but there are times where I do. You know, it's a strange thing. And I think the reality is, we as riders are probably guilty at times of taking too much road, and we as motorists are at times intolerant of the cyclists. So put yourself in the other person's shoes is probably the best advice I can give. Don't put the rider at risk. You know, sometimes the riders ride like clowns, to be quite frank, but you know, they are unprotected, and we as motorists need to ensure we don't do something stupid and don't knock them over. If you consider how narrow 1 meter is, it's probably not safe enough. But the reality is our roads probably don't have more space to make it 1.5 meters. And understanding that a cyclist is on two narrow wheels most of the time, and if you move a fraction, you know, on your bike, you're probably moving a fair portion of that 1 meter in your little step and climb or whatever it is. So 1 meter is probably not a lot, but 1 meter I think is a lot better than what we have at the moment. Well, I think the safe cycling is two things. One, from you know, maybe there is an all-inclusive way of getting government involved in creating cycle lanes. So I think we should engage with government. I think cycling lanes are appropriate. I think part of that would need to be, as I said, taxi lanes as well, because the reality is the taxis will probably end up in the cycle lanes. If you go into the cradle and you see how effective it is out there with the dedicated cycle lane, you'll see the effect that it does have. And so I would guess government is the one thing, but most importantly, it's an educational process. It's about educating the motorists and re-educating the cyclists.
I cycle because the last 5 years I've had a rough time in my life. I've gone through 12 operations and I've bounced back from there. I just really love it now. I have a passion for it. And yes, my helmet goes on first even before I do anything else. It was hard for me, but I'm telling you, if you get into cycling, it's going to become your way of life. I love the Wider of the Rider slogan because I think it spells out to motorists and to every road user out there that the road needs to be shared by everyone, because lives are at stake every single time somebody takes the road and they are not safety equipped. I think both motorists and cyclists need to be vigilant, that because the road is there for everyone to share. I think if motorists and cyclists work together, then the roads would be a lot safer. And I think it's not a new thing anymore. We need to be aware that there are a lot more, even younger children are using the roads. And if, especially from a motorist perspective, if you are alert on the road, and especially now there are lanes marked for cyclists to be, but there's still that little bit of leeway where cyclists actually have to use the road. And I think if the motorists also obey themselves with the rules of the road for both motorists and cyclists, then I think there will be a greater medium found between the cyclist and the motorist. If government becomes more involved by ensuring that the road signs are properly marked, the white lines for the cyclists are properly marked, especially the drawings that they have with the cyclist bike on it, and more roads and side paths are created, that is the government's responsibility. In all practices of life, safety first for cyclists, safety first for people, then I think all over there will be a happy cyclist on the road.
Every day we are faced with choices, from the really simple ones like what to wear, to the harder ones like what to do in life and where to go, who to become. Good choices will keep us safe, out of trouble, keep us healthy. They help to protect what we value and the things we love. They push us forward towards our hope, our dreams, our goals. Choices are like roads that ultimately take you where you want to go. The simple, everyday choices shaping our future. And what we choose matters, and who we do it with counts. Mostly, we choose to get on our saddle and head for freedom. Pushing each other hard on the track, but really racing ourselves. And you, who chose to ride the cycle tour, for whatever your reason was, well, you've made my choice possible. Thank you.
One must remember that the cycle tour started off as a demonstration ride, wanting the authorities to give more attention to cyclists being on the road and their safety and so forth. Through the cycle tour, I think we've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to grow the sport out of the profits that have come out of that event. Pedal Power, in terms of its constitution, don't only look after guys on the road cycling. We are bound to look after cycling in all its forms. Last year was a very good highlight for PPA with the 1.5 and Cyclists Stay Alive campaign. It culminated in a tour that took place from Johannesburg down to Cape Town.
Thank you, Mzansi, for supporting this nationwide safe cycling campaign.
It takes a motorist 2 or 3 seconds to give us a 1.5 meter passing distance. However, it gives me the rest of my life as a cyclist. And I think that's a critical message that we want to get out there.
What is nice is this version to see, this thick bundle of signatures handed over to the minister.
Everybody, they have a right to be on our roads. And we need to remember this and to respect this. And therefore, any step and any measure that will ensure and enforce the safety of any of these stakeholders, I think we should support that.
Following on that was the wonderful surprise for us that the Western Cape government passed a law that it's now illegal to come within 1 meter of a cyclist. It's only 2/3 of the way for us, but we are very pleased about that. We've also spent over 2 million rand on producing the tops, subsidizing the tops, the stickers, the radio ads and things like that.
1.5 cyclists stay alive. 1.5 cyclists.
If it just saves one life, it's going to be all worthwhile. Just one life.
I feel cycling is such an amazing sport and it's got so much to offer, but if we don't make motorists aware for cyclists, it's a sport that's not going to grow, and we all want to see it grow.
We want people on bicycles. We want guys enjoying the environment, cycling. Mountain biking has so much to offer. You're exploring your own backyard, your country on a bicycle. The more riders, the more users, runners, walkers, hikers are on the mountain, the less space there is for a criminal to operate. So we communicate closely with Sand Parks, Table Mountain National Park in this case. We have put up surveillance cameras on the mountain. The nature of the sport is such that you are always taking some sort of risk, taking a mountain bike onto an off-road trail where you've got loose rocks, gravel. But the maintenance of the trails ensures that at least the trail itself is up to a standard, a safety standard that is acceptable, and where one can then open it up or keep it open for cycling. Just get out there and ride, and you'll just realize what fun it is. It'll be tough, but you'll get used to it and you'll love it. And the fitter you get on your bike, the further you can go, the more you can explore.
Pedal Power has had a tremendous amount of membership because we put on the events that are safe for them. The experience that we've gained over these years has helped us to put on these events now. And we know what the safety is all about, and people know that the rides that we put on are going to be safe. From having no staff, we now have a full complement of 12 staff members in the office, putting on these events annually. We've also spent over R500,000 on supporting development cycling in this country. We have a number of development clubs that we sponsor every week. We sponsor them to enter into the cycle tour. We provide funding for them to come to the fun rides by organising taxis for them. We pay for their membership. We put up tracks in Velokaya, we've put them in Athlone, we've put them in Kayamandi, we've put them up in KwaZulu-Natal, all over the country. It's just so wonderful to see the freedom that it gives them and the joy that it gives them. We see how it's changed people, how it's brought people together, enjoying something that we're all so passionate about.